Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tickets Towards Success podcast. I'm your host, Tucker Nunakoven. Here we talk about health, fitness, finance, and the mindset needed to thrive in all areas of life. For today's episode, we're actually going to be discussing processed foods and what they could be doing to your body. And we're also going to discuss what you can do to not let those processed foods affect you. We're going to talk about what exactly are processed foods, the health consequences of processed food dieting, and we're also going to talk about why we crave them and how to stop having that feeling and that craving towards those unhealthy foods. We're going to discuss how to spot hidden processed ingredients, some steps to remove them and replace them with whole nutrient-dense foods, and I'm going to share some of my personal experience with cutting back on processed foods and switching over to a whole foods diet. As a quick reminder, if you enjoy this episode, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone that you think could possibly benefit from these insights. And also drop a comment and let me know your thoughts on this episode. So let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. What are processed foods? Processed foods are any food that has been altered from their original state, from their original form for convenience, preservation, flavor enhancement. This includes everything from bagged chips to frozen dinners, protein bars, salad dressings, etc. There's also levels of processing. There's minimally processed, like frozen veggies, bagged spinach, roasted nuts, grass-fed meat. And then there's also heavily processed, which could be processed or packaged snacks, sugary drinks, or ready-to-eat meals. What's important is knowing where the food that you're buying and the food that you're eating, where it falls on this spectrum, and making informed choices each and every time that you go shopping. Everything is processed, but we should opt to get the least processed foods we can with the least amount of ingredients. Those are going to be the best foods for us. So what do processed foods do to our bodies? This is where it starts to get really serious and can cause issues, can cause long-term effects on our bodies, because heavily processed foods are linked to a host of chronic conditions: obesity, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and gut health disruption. Processed foods are typically very calorie dense and they're very nutrient poor, which can lead to obesity. High levels of sodium, trans fat, and added sugars contribute to inflammation and cardiovascular issues, which can cause heart disease. And then you have like refined carbs, sugars that spike blood sugar levels, can cause type 2 diabetes, and additives and lack of fiber can disturb your microbiome in the gut, and that can really disrupt the health of our gut, which can cause leaky gut. There's actually a study conducted in 2019 that found that people who ate ultra-processed foods consumed about 500 more calories per day than those who ate whole foods. Sometimes we look at 500 in terms of calories, and sometimes we don't think it's that much, but it's actually a sustainable or a very large amount of calories. Especially if we're trying to lose weight, lose body fat, we cannot be adding in 500 extra calories. And although there is not a ton of evidence to support my personal theory, I believe that processed foods play a huge role in the development of cancer in our bodies as well. Looking and researching some of the ingredients that is placed in some of these processed foods, there are usually a lot of harmful chemicals, which is very, very concerning that we are consuming those harmful chemicals. And it's a high possibility, again, in my opinion, that it can cause forms of cancer, which is obviously a huge deal here in America. The problem doesn't start With the processed foods, though, it's the reasons that we crave the processed foods, because this is where science and psychology intersect. Companies purposely engineer processed foods to be hyper palatable. So they engineer them for us to like them a lot. So they taste really good. We get hits of dopamine every time that we eat them because we enjoy them, because they spark our taste buds. And that is how these companies design these foods. It's a combination of salt, fat, sugar, and additives that is designed to trigger that dopamine, and it releases in our brain and it makes us happy and makes us crave more. This can lead to overeating, food addiction patterns, emotional eating habits, and it can also lead to withdrawal symptoms such as headaches, mood swings, fatigue, and brain fog. So when we're eating a lot of these processed foods and we suddenly stop, it's going to create that fatigue. It's going to create that headache. You wonder when you go home for the holidays or it's holiday season and you're eating all this sugar, these processed foods, and then you have that crash later on in the day. You get really tired, you get fatigued, can't think straight, you have a brain fog, and then maybe days later, maybe the same day, you get a headache because your body might not be used to it. I know personally for me, if I go home during the holidays and I, stack up on a bunch of processed foods, eat a bunch of sugar, I am going to have those symptoms because my body's not accustomed to eating that way anymore. So I have those withdrawal symptoms and they really, really suck and they make you get off track. So be aware of these cravings, be aware of these symptoms, because these foods are designed to override your sanity signals, making it hard to stop at just one serving. They keep you coming back for more. And you can tell this, it's if you want to run an experiment, have a whole food meal next to a processed food meal. And usually after you eat a healthy meal, you feel well satiated and satisfied. But normally after an unhealthy meal, you still crave more unhealthy food. And then you eventually experience that crash, possibly those withdrawal symptoms or food addiction patterns or overeating. And I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this in your own lives where maybe we are really good at eating whole foods and then we have one day where we don't, and then you start to crave more and more, and it gets hard to get back to where you were. There's a few ways that you can identify and avoid processed foods. Start reading ingredient labels. Make sure you watch out for added sugars. You can look for terms like high fructose corn syrup, cane sugar, stevia, etc. Also be aware of artificial preservatives and colors such as red 40, blue 1, yellow 6. I would also stay clear of seed oils as much as possible. Canola oil, soybean, sunflower, etc. There's more out there. You can just Google what are seed oils and all of them will populate. It's hard to stay away from a lot of these because if we're eating out a lot or if we're maybe on a tighter budget, it's hard to not have these in our diet. With the seed oil thing, if you're eating out, 9 times out of 10, that restaurant's going to use seed oils. So you're just going to have to face the facts there and you're just going to have to roll with it, but try to avoid them as much as possible, especially at home when you're cooking your own meals. I always say that a good rule of thumb is if you can't pronounce what one of the ingredients is on the label, your body probably can't process it very well either. So stick to foods with 5 ingredients or fewer and ones that you recognize or that you know. And once you start implementing this into your grocery shopping, you will have that realization of what you have actually been eating and see how bad those healthy foods actually are for you. I know for me, it was a true eye-opener. Going back, looking at protein bars, bags of chips, certain cheeses, even certain meats. I'm looking at sauces like ketchup, barbecue sauce, Heinz 57 with steak. going and reading all of those ingredients lists now, it blows my mind what is in our food and all the years that I spent consuming this unhealthy food, these preservatives, these colors, all the seed oils, the processed sugars, all the stuff that has high fructose corn syrup in it is unbelievable. It's mind-boggling what they're putting in foods. I encourage you to just go to your normal grocery store, whatever day that you do that, walk down the aisle, pick up a few random things or things that you typically get, look at the ingredients list, look at what you're putting into your body, and make a sound decision to get that or to not get that based off what you're reading and based off what you're seeing. Like I said, it was a true eye-opener for me. I hope that you'll do the same. Now, there are options. You can replace processed foods with whole foods. So instead of ultra processed snacks, you can go to fresh fruits and vegetables. Apples, bananas, berries is a great one. I love berries. They're cheap, they're satiating, they keep you full, and they're good with fiber. You can do dates, oranges, cucumbers, pickles, etc. I don't eat a ton of vegetables like broccoli, asparagus, those things, but I do like the cucumbers and the pickles. You can also stick to grass-fed meats and wild-caught fish. Has to be wild-caught fish. Don't buy farm-raised. Now, if you're on a tighter budget and you need to buy farm-raised, that's in between. You can, if you do enjoy fish, I would probably just stick with grass-fed meats like red meats or chicken if you want to buy that. Wild-caught fish is definitely the better choice. I'm not a big fish person, but I do eat wild-caught fish. But I've heard that farm-raised fish is really, really bad. I would also go with pasture-raised eggs. That's probably going to be the best type of egg that you can get. Pasture-raised just means that the chickens have free roam to go out and eat what they would normally eat. They're not being grain-fed. They're eating like bugs and worms, what they're naturally supposed to eat, which is going to produce the best kind of eggs. Cage-free and free-range eggs are going to be grain-fed, and they're also going to have, I think the free-range is a little bit, like they have a certain amount of space that they can be in the grass, but they're not like grazing an entire plot of land. So pasture-raised is definitely going to be your best bet. If you cannot afford pasture-raised, I would go with the free-range. It'd probably be the next best option, but you can find pasture-raised eggs for a decent price, especially if you go to your local farmer's market and you can find a good vendor that does pasture-raised eggs, or you can get them for a decent price at Aldi too, and they have pretty good eggs there. And you can always tell. So say you go to a local farmer's market and you find this vendor, they're claiming that all their eggs are pasture-raised eggs. When you go home and you eat those eggs, look at the color of the yolk. That's how you're going to be able to tell if it's really pasture-raised or not. Now, it may depend on some, so make sure you get through the whole carton. If the whole carton is like a bright yellow, those are not pasture-raised, unfortunately. If it's like a bright golden color, that's going to be pasture-raised, and those are going to be some really high-quality eggs, and those are the ones that you want. Like I said, though, you're not going to get that in every single egg, in every single container. I have local eggs that I get. Sometimes there's one or two, maybe, that are a little bit more yellow than golden, but most of the time they're golden. So that's how I know. Sometimes you'll get a bad egg every now and then. Go with the pasture-raised eggs, though. They taste incredible, and they're so much better for you. Another thing you can do is you can have raw dairy or clean dairy alternatives. I live in Iowa, so raw dairy is illegal unless if I get it through a local farm, which I just haven't yet. It's very pricey, so I don't. I stick with clean dairy alternatives. If I'm going to get a milk, it's going to be super low temp milk, usually with the cream still in the milk. I don't drink a lot of milk though. If I get yogurt, it's going to be Greek yogurt, and it's going to have very limited ingredients in it as well. Cheeses, you can get raw cheese here. So sometimes I'll get raw cheese. I usually stick with Parmesan Reggiano, which is a natural raw cheese. So that's what I use 99% of the time. The good thing about all these foods is they're going to support energy, digestion, immunity, and longevity. These are great foods that you can eat and that you can incorporate into your everyday life. I personally made this switch about 2 years ago. I was experiencing some health issues and nothing was working in terms of medication from doctors. And at one point, I was actually on seven different medications. I have a condition called esophageal esophagitis, which is EOE. It is inflammation in the gut. And I would have some really bad nausea. I'd have some really bad side stomach pain. And like I said, I was on 7 different medications at one point, 2 inhalers, a nasal spray, and then like 4 different kinds of pills that I was taking. And I felt terrible. I felt awful. And so I decided to start looking into dieting. I started to try and find a different alternative that would help me and that could potentially heal my body naturally. I just thought that there had to be a way to do that. And I figured the best place to start would be what I consume and what I put into my body and what I eat every day. Then I ended up finding the carnivore diet. I tried that for a while. Very, very tough, but it helped a lot with the symptoms I was having. And then I decided that that was never going to be sustainable for a long period of time, and I didn't want it to be like that. So then I found animal-based, and now I really focus on whole foods, but it's mostly animal-based. I'll throw in some sourdough, maybe some very high-quality bread every now and then, and I will eat out and I will enjoy myself as well, but I really try to stick to animal-based and whole foods as much as possible. And I will say that this has helped me stop from overeating and snacking so much. I also feel very, very satiated after eating my meals, which definitely helps with that snacking aspect. And I just feel better because I'm not consuming as much and I'm having healthy food in my body. It's also helped me in all of my fitness goals as well in terms of losing body fat and still gaining muscle. So there's tons of protein in animal-based dieting. There's tons of protein even in just whole foods dieting. So you're able to lose that body fat and you're able to gain muscle very rapidly. And I think that if more people were able to structure their eating, not necessarily having to be animal-based, but whole foods-based, I think we'd see a big drop in people being obese. I think we'd see a big drop in chronic issues. I think people would start to wake up a little bit. It has helped me so much. I hope that if you're listening to this, you'll give it a shot and you'll start looking and doing your own research to see and determine if this would be a good route for you. But I would highly, highly recommend giving it a try at least. Now, there are a few common myths about processed foods. The healthy packaged foods. I will say just because it says it's organic or low fat doesn't mean it's good for you. Early on in the episode, I said start reading your ingredients list. Always, always just read the ingredients. See what is actually in that healthy packaged food. Check the ingredients. If it's more than 5, probably throw it down or throw it away. If there's ingredients you can't pronounce or you don't know what they are, either look it up and do some research on it or get rid of it. Convenience versus health is also a common myth. With planning, whole foods can be just as convenient. Making time if it is important to you. This goes with not only fitness, but it goes with your health as well. It goes with your meal structures. It goes with cooking meals at home. Your health is the best thing that you can invest in. You only get one body for the rest of your life. So you might as well invest in nutrient-dense, healthy foods that are going to fuel your body, make you feel really good, and you're going to perform in all aspects of your life a lot better. There's cost myths as well. Eating whole foods doesn't have to break the bank. You can buy in bulk, you can shop locally, like at those farmers markets, and meal prepping can make it very affordable. I eat kind of on the higher side, I guess, because I eat a lot of red meat and a lot of ground beef. So I pay for that, obviously, but you can do it with chicken. You don't have to buy grass-fed beef either if you don't want to. You can buy whatever you can afford. The lowest quality meat is going to be better for you than any processed, healthy, packaged meal. I can promise you that. There's going to be more nutrients in it, and it's going to fuel your body, and it's going to have more protein that your body needs to function and to recover. So do what you can with where you are in your life. If you can only afford that grain-fed meat, that's fine. If you can't afford organic fruit, no worries. Just buy regular fruit and just clean it with some white vinegar and some baking soda. You can do this at home. It takes 10 minutes. There are always options, so don't stress over it too much, but try to do the best you can with where you are in your life currently. Most people don't think twice about what they're eating, and that's exactly the problem. Processed foods aren't just a convenience issue, they're a long-term health trade-off that most people don't even realize that they're making. And once you do start seeing it clearly, you can't unsee it. Like I said earlier, once I started reading those ingredients, figuring out what was actually being put into those processed foods, it was eye-opening. This entire episode wasn't built on theory. It came from real experience for me, from the chronic issues that I've experienced with my health, from eating unprocessed foods for a long time, experiencing brain fog, fatigue, non-muscle growth, and withdrawal symptoms, struggling with those unexplained health issues, going from doctor to doctor, prescription to prescription, and finally deciding to outsource that solution and take matters into my own hands. That shift to take that full ownership over what goes into the body changes everything. You have to have that mindset. It's not going to happen overnight, but permanently, it can change your life. The truth is, no one's coming to save your health. You get one body and it's up to you. So challenge everyone to learn, to question the labels, to cook more home meals, to stop giving your body second-rate fuel and expect first-rate results. Progress doesn't come from cutting everything at once. It comes from stacking small, smart decisions consistently in health, in eating, and in life. The more control you take, the more momentum you build. And eventually, it stops feeling like discipline. It just becomes your standard. And I will stand behind that. It took a lot of effort when I made this diet switch. It took a lot of learning. It took a lot of annoying stuff that would happen. It took a lot to be disciplined, to say no to certain foods, to say no to certain sweet treats. And now it's a standard. I say no to a lot of things. That is where this is heading. It's not restriction, it's clarity. And continuing to build self-awareness. That is the most important part of health. And I believe, to me, that's the most important part of life, is building self-awareness, being aware of what's happening around you in your life, in the world, and knowing which direction to take and which choices to make. Gain mental clarity and build that self-awareness. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this episode today. I hope that you're able to get something out of this as we discussed the truth about processed foods, what it's doing to your body, and hopefully taking some tips to change your life in a positive way and to get your health back on track if it's not right now. I encourage everyone to keep collecting tickets every single day and keep moving forward. And I will see everyone in the next episode.